A very good evening and welcome to another exciting and interesting edition of Big Talk, a program where we highlight political issues concerning Nigeria. Tonight on the program, we'll look at the PDP and what is happening with the People's Democratic Party, a one-time biggest political party in Nigeria, as the news getting to us tonight says that a federal high court sitting in Ibadan has nullified the PDP convention that was held on the 15th and 16th of November 2025. The court declared the convention invalid and of no legal effect. And the ruling says that the judge found that the convention was held in violations of existing court orders and also violations of internal party rules. Joining us tonight to help make sense of a discussion as we look at what this means for the People's Democratic Party, a one-time biggest political party in Nigeria, and also a one-time ruling party. In fact, the PDP ruled Nigeria from 1999 to 2015. That is 16 years on the saddle of power. We have Dr. Ajibade, Tunji Ajibade, who is a journalist and also a public commentator who's joined us tonight on the program. Thank you so much, Dr. Ajibade, for coming on the program.
Nice being on your program, Ubong.
Thank you so much. PDP, we're talking about the PDP again, and from what we're seeing, the factions, two factions, Tani Moturaki SAN claiming leadership that was handed over by Umar Damagu. Right. Then we have the Abdurrahman-led faction, caretaker committee of the party. And it seems the court is going this other way now, as the leadership to us was saying, we do not recognize that convention that was held in Ibadan. The court says it was against the internal party arrangement, and there were also existing court orders that were placed by this other faction against, but you went ahead to carry on that convention. What do you have to say?
At the end of the day, the court has a final say. We have to admit that. The situation in which PDP finds itself at this time, while the court processes continue, I also have the feeling that there are a series of meetings going on by the major actors. Right. What we see in the public space, don't let that one deceive us. These are politicians. It will interest you, Ubong, to know that right from the word go, when the one faction went to court, another one went to hold convention. I'm a political scientist. I'm being realistic. I wasn't particularly bothered because I know at the end of the day what they normally do, and it will interest you to know, is that they will throw all manner of stones at one another. But at the end of the day, politicians will always be politicians. They will find a way to come around. Court cases will go on. It may even last up to the Supreme Court. Yeah. One side going, the other side going. Practically around the same issue. But at the end of the day, power play should be expected to take this format most of the time. Particularly when PDP, because PDP had the kind of background it had all the way back to 2022, when there was this division over one candidate going for, and one person going for presidential, and then the party split such that Wike faction, for instance, began to support the ruling party, the party that eventually won that presidential election. I always remind people that any analysis of PDP that doesn't go back to that point, any blaming of persons, any going to court, is not taking full account of the entire situation. So I would want to say that what has been going on, power play, ego going against ego, at the end of the day, whether in court, outside of court, these people will have a way of sorting one another out.
Right. Okay, so one of the things is that we've seen that these issues have led to the PDP losing a lot of footholds. As to September of last year, the PDP still had about 5 governors, 8 governors. But a lot of governors have left. Just the other day, 2 days ago, we saw the governor of Plateau State, Caleb Motran, who've left. We've seen different governors who've left. So let's talk about those who have left the party.
Current governors, they of course they will make the news because they are in the saddle at the moment. PDP got to that point when those who are in power at the moment, who are looking forward to elections in the future, who have to make a decision. So you can't take that one away from them, no matter what we say. They will look for safe platforms, safe ground. Why? Because there's a background. There's the fear. For instance, take the governor of Osun State, Governor Adeleke, who had to move to Accord Party.
Right.
Part of this fear was that even if he got the ticket for PDP, which he actually lost, but even if he said he didn't contest that primary, the primaries, if he got it, the fear was already being lost. Now, at the end of the day, the kind of situation that arose in court today, depending on which faction, depending on what the court is saying, he might end up being a victim.
Right.
This is expected of those who are in political offices and who are expecting to contest next. For those who are not contesting, for those who are, many of them are still sitting there in PDP that is regarded as being highly troubled. But if you are looking
highly troubled,
Ubonk, with the situation in which it finds itself, because that unclear situation is leading to why many of them are moving away, those who are in political offices and who are looking for political offices. That quagmire is leading to, it's one of the reasons they are moving, because they are not sure of their future. Even if they get the ticket, what if the court gets up tomorrow and those who are contesting election, who are looking at their political future on one side, and those who are comfortable, within the party, who like to maintain the structure, and who probably have fear of what next, where are we going, let's sit here. There are some of them like that. So different considerations. So when they move, they of course they will make the news, but because they are in the seat, But I always like to point it out, Ubonk, that PDP is a big pond. I take note, I use the word pond. I don't use the word river or stream.
Right.
16 years in power. Am I right?
Right.
16 years in power.
Ex-governor.
From 1999 to 2015. Ex-governors, ex-senators, ex-local government chairmen, ex-commissioners. It's a huge pool, a huge pond. When we consider the problem PDP is going through, we still shouldn't forget that this party had produced such a large catch of individuals, politicians, who may not be contesting, but they are there. They have been waiting for the opportunity for the party to get its acts right. The party seemed to be, not getting it right. But they are still there. Don't let us forget. I place emphasis on the fact that some, they are making the news because they are in seat of power. But there's a residue, a huge number of PDP members who are not in political offices, but who are there, who, if this party finds its feet tomorrow, they will come forward. And it's a huge whatever. So we still can't rule it out. I think I'm trying to look at a situation in which, once the coast is clear, politicians will always say, they are moving to other parties, quite all right. ADC is gaining. APC, the ruling party, is gaining. Other parties are also gaining. But till tomorrow, I still don't rule out PDP. Maybe their situation may not make them look good for the next election. But this is still a party.
All right. So we've seen the Turaki-led faction or leadership of the party. We've seen that particular press release that is being done by Nyeme Mobon, who is the National Publicity Secretary of that leadership, saying they will appeal the judgment. Let's talk about that. We see that a lot in our political space. our politicians love to appeal judgment once it doesn't come in their favor. And we've seen the Abdurrahman-led leadership say, this judgment is the best judgment, it is good, this is the right thing. So when it favors me, it's the best, but when it does not, we will appeal. Let me hear your take on that.
Before the case started, you see, politicians know what they are doing. Before the case started, they had already set aside funds to fight the case all the way from the first court to the Supreme Court. So they would drag it. Power play. We are talking about power here. You see, your power base, maintaining it is very important. And politicians will do anything to maintain that power base. You want to contest for office, where's your power base? The way to get to offices, to political offices is through the political parties. For now, we don't have independent. Okay. So these people will fight over PDP to the last. It pays them. You talked about the man who was praising the judgment. Of course, he will praise the judgment. And the other side that lost at this level will still seek to. It is part of politics. Sometimes I wonder if I am being realistic or I'm being over-realistic. I don't know how to call it. But with my background, I have grown used to the fact that politicians will fight anything. They will do anything. We hear stories, even the ones that cannot come into the news, let alone legal. That one is even nothing. Like, this is a legal route. Of course, all of them will give the impression that we are following the law. Rule of law, we are for rule of law. If it pays them, they praise. If it doesn't pay them, they condemn, right. Which we are seeing in today's ruling that you are referring to. But at the end of the day, whether they go through legal processes or they don't, they will do everything to maintain that base. Why do you think some of them are not moving? Ubonk. Why do you think they are not moving out of PDP? Those who are maintaining the party structure, those who are contesting, party leadership, and then those who are contesting for offices. Some of them are not leaving. Right. If you go and do, check the list, you'll be surprised at the pool that are still, the pool of people, politicians, sitting there looking for opportunity. So those who are dragging the party, they know what they are dragging. They know these are people who probably, most of the time, they consider politics a professional thing. It's their life. And they can do and undo sometimes regarding this. But regarding court case, it's not unexpected, Ubonk. It's not unexpected.
Okay, so what is the significance of this court ruling now in our internal democracy? Because most times we talk about the fact that let us have internal party mechanisms that could solve issues before it gets into our courts. But we keep seeing our courts being burdened by a lot of political cases. We have, the Labour Party has its own cases still in courts, right? The other day, High Court in Abuja reaffirmed Nadi Guzman as the authentic leadership. Abuja leadership said we will appeal that judgment. Even the SDP, there are contention, who is, even the ADC, right. There's contestation as to who is the chairman of the ADC at this particular point. Why did the PDP lack the ability to use its internal mechanism to solve this issue?
Political party as a gathering, an assembly of people with interests. Normally we say similar interest. That's what brings them together. But you'll be surprised that within that, setup, the interests of those who are seeking for political offices, those who want to take control of the structure, those interests do clash. And when you have that kind of a situation, you end up looking at situations in which people try to outsmart one another. I prefer to use the word outfox.
Outforce one another.
If you move among these people, you will be surprised at the crafty ways they go about things. This is the party rule, Ubonk. Everybody would like to circumvent. Let me give you a latest example. Somebody was saying just the other time that one particular party is doing registration of its members. Some who are coming in from outside, some who are not coming in from outside, they try to register through the portal setup. And then they insert their NIM or is it BVN number or whatever, NIN number. I'm trying to recall which one is. But immediately they insert it, they say the number is already used. These are people who want to register. Who did that? Some people are somewhere at the back scheming, collecting all these details and doing all manner of things. Why do you think they do that? To have an advantage within the party and for all manner of other reasons. Scheming in order to have control of the party. In a situation in which, that's why most of the time when politicians are at a disadvantage, they start talking about let the process be free and fair and transparent. It's because if they are the one on the other side, they will do the same thing. We've seen it over the years. When they are on the losing side, you hear, let the process be transparent. So
how does that affect our internal mechanism from solving these issues?
Exactly. It is that collapse of internal mechanism, the subversion of the internal mechanisms. This is one of the reasons you have the extent of confusion, cases going to court, as we have now. So that subversion cuts across all the parties. It's not even just among those ones you mentioned. Once you see them coming out like that, you just know that right inside, some people are trying to. The other time, this same PDP, they wanted to sell a form to contest for chairmanship, and then they took form from Abuja, took it to Adamawa State, and said the form was with the governor, the governor of Adamawa State, who was then in PDP. So everybody should go to Adamawa State. That's subversion of internal system. And at the end of the day, I think former Governor Sule Lamido was threatening to go to court. I don't know if he eventually ended up. So when you have the system not working in favor of certain interests within the party, certain individuals, resort to court and all of that will be prevalent, just as you have rightly mentioned. It's the internal mechanism that is being deliberately subverted. Follow it through. You have less cases in court.
Right, so I would like to talk about, this is a party, this is not a new peace party. It is a party that has former presidents as a member. At least, although one of the former presidents publicly on camera saw the membership card, that's Olusegun Obasanjo. But Goodluck Jonathan is still a member, and they still have very prominent persons who can still mediate and speak to. Do you think maybe that is what the PDP may need at this point? Somebody who calls them to order and speaks, and both sides. Do the PDP still have people that are respected or by both sides of the conflicts, by both chapters, both factions, both leadership, that could listen to that person as the person calls them to order?
From my view, from my standpoint, I would like to distinguish between the ruling party and the party that is outside or whatever. You see, when you have your party in power, the former presidents you are talking about, assuming they happen to be one of them happens to be the president, the leverage he has is much greater than when he's out of power. We need to understand that. You see, the person of the president is like the entire country, captured, personalized, and the amount of pressure, the stick he can wield, the influence, the aura around him that he could make use of to have his way, comes to bear when you are talking about this kind of internal party issues. Everybody, if these people were supposed to be in power, the kind of leverage they will have and the kind of pressure they can bring to bear on the individuals who are having all these issues is quite different from when they are out of power. So is it the resources you are going to talk about? Some of the former presidents you are talking about, some of the current governors they have control over more resources than them, as at this time. But if they were to be in power, that's a different scenario. The president has everything around, the military, the police, and the resources, the money. We hear cases of former president instructing heads of agencies to transfer money from one person to the other just for political purposes. That's the kind of, a leverage that a president could have. And when you have that, people under you, the politicians, they are likely to take you seriously and move according, because you can as well deny them the next ticket if they are not. But somebody who is not a sitting president does not have that kind of a leverage anymore. So that makes a lot of difference, But then, when coming back to still on your question, ordinarily, this former president should be able to do that. But when you have people seeking after power and they feel they are in position of authority at the moment, they are less likely to listen to you as you are trying to project, compared to when you are actually in power as the president. There are two different scenarios, really.
Right. So what we're seeing here is a control for the soul of the party, a fight for the soul of the party. We have on one side Senator Sam Anyanwu, Abdul Rahman, Mohamuha, a lot of other persons. That is the weaker side of it. And we have Seyi Makinde. But before that convention, we had some persons who came out to say, suspend this convention, go for meetings, go for consultation. Enough consultations were not done. That was on one hand. And during that particular convention in Ibadan, where Body Judge came to read out the names of those that were expelled, some governors, Governor Ahmadu Fintiri, who was the chairman of the NCOC, National Convention Organizing Committee, came out to say, I am not in support of the expulsion of the FCT minister, Sam Anyanwu, and the rest of them. It is not the right thing to be done at the right time. I like that we look in retrospect. Do you think that would have been the best thing? Maybe pause the convention at the time and go for more consultation.
Consultations, very important in the political process, in managing a political party, in managing a nation, even, But I don't want to excuse or justify the position of the Makinde camp. It's not as if I want to justify, but you see, these politicians got to a point in their relationship that it was, at that point in time, it was a case of let's show force. Then any other thing can follow. We'll get to resolve. And that was the way I understood that situation as at that point. They knew they could consult. But a lot of water has passed under the bridge in their personal relationship. We got to know much later after the convention when Governor Makinde gave an interview, former Governor Wike also gave an interview. We began to see exactly what transpired, person to person, individual to individual. If we didn't know that before, at the point when we knew it, we now understand why consultation will have, became a thing of ego, became a thing of, damn the consequence, let's drag it. That let's drag it and see who will come top is, for me, part of politics. And for me, it makes politics interesting. If all those things are not happening, we are not talking about politics. Do you know the classic definition of politics? That some of us from political science background, who gets what?
How and where?
It's about distribution, power, resources, and all of that. So when it comes to it, politicians will go to any length. They will put the house on the ground and then let's come together and rebuild. But we won't give way to you to have it. It's in their mentality. Particularly when you have resources to contend, they will contend. When you have resources to say, I will damn the consequence, they will do it. They knew they could sit down. These were brothers. Makinde and former Governor Wike, they were part of the 5 governors.
Yeah, the G5.
G5, who decided to work with Asiwaju Tinubu, who eventually emerged. They worked for him. They were together. They were attending meetings, but their situation, we now got to know what transpired between them, among them, that led to a situation in which before that convention, they couldn't have the kind of meeting you are talking about. And since they couldn't have, we will see that's why we are seeing what we are seeing. It's a possibility, it's a way out, it's a route that they could have followed. They could have done that. Nobody needed to tell them that. They could sit down brothers to brothers and talk and resolve these issues. But they decided to go the way they have gone, and this is where we are.
Right, so let's talk about that convention in Ibadan. We have 36 states in Nigeria. We saw more than 22 of chairmen of different, states who came around showing solidarity. So if you're even looking at the structure, even though the Wike camp have said that they will go ahead and conduct their own congresses leading to their own convention, but you see solidarity. I've spoken to the chairman of Anambra PDP, Comrade Chidi, on my program, and he said, I am supporting Tanimu Turaki. Kaduna PDP chairman was here once and also talked about supporting Turaki. So a lot of PDP chairmen seem to be supporting Turaki. So it's more like, even if you win in court, you are not popular on the ground. And how does that affect the party? Eventually, let's say at the end of everything, you still win in courts, but do you have the popularity of those on ground, or are you now going to start forming new executive all across board?
It's an interesting question you have raised. Popularity with the people, and then those who hold on to the structure of the party. I've had politicians making that point, but in the history of this country, how many times do we find sometimes the person who eventually got to power or gets to be in control of a political party being particularly very, very popular? Mm-hmm. Because the process by which they arrived there, what they call consensus, or what they call party leaders have sat and they have decided this is where we are going. How are you going to get somebody who's popular with the people like that? The ground is filled, is littered with situations in which party members who begin to canvass around the country, amass support. We've seen it across all the parties, not just, even in PDP. Don't let me go into the story of somebody like late Chief Raymond Okwesi of one of the media sister broadcasting stations, who canvassed across the country. And at the end of the day, party leadership decided this was the way they were going. You understand? We know at convention grounds, when party leaders will decide this is the person, or even before the convention, they will have sat. We see it even in the recent step taken by the ruling party, where it was decided, okay, this is the person we are going to select. I recall you were asking me about the APC chairman on this program not too long ago. When you said, you were like, why did they select him and all that? Party leadership, they sit down and decide. So whether the man is, any person who is coming to take a position is popular. So we see it across parties. So it's not limited to PDP. So when anybody is coming up with the argument that those who are holding on to the, how did they imagine in the first place? How did they come there? We knew how somebody like Secondus arrived as the party chairman. We knew those who supported him. We knew those who were against him. But those who were holding the reins of the party and the resources decided that was for example, that was the man we wanted. And they put him there. And at the end of the day, we saw what transpired. That he was even taking those who supported him to court in order to remain in office. So the argument that somebody is popular or not popular, why is he only... Once they take hold of the party structure, they don't want to let go. So it's not, we can't rationalize it in terms of this one is popular. How many people have emerged in political positions, even at state level, local government level, who happen to be popular with the people on the street. When you move among politicians, move within political parties, you will discover that the next information you will get is that people come down to tell people at the village level, local level, world level to say, the leadership has decided it must be this person, and everybody goes in that direction. Most of the time, that's the way they emerge. So when the people who are now talking about people don't want you, is because of the side in which they are, if they are on the other side. I am not always moved by this kind of argument, because the reality is that party leadership plays a role in who emerges, either as a part of the party structure, party leadership, or in governance, in political offices. They play a huge role. If you are not in good terms with them, the person loses out. So for anybody to come out and begin to tell us that you are not popular with the people, I've heard it on so many occasions. But it's because they're on the losing side. If they're on the winning, the other side, they won't be talking like that. They will sit on it, and they will allow all this
the popularity over time.
Oh, even if they don't earn the popularity over time, it becomes fait accompli in terms of party leadership has selected this for us, so we work with what we have. Right. It's often the case, Ubong.
This is the situation now. But let's talk about the resources that went into planning, execution of that convention, a massive convention held in Ibadan. Many persons traveled all over Nigeria to participate in that PDP convention. And sometimes, doesn't the court look at the resources that was expended in such processes? Because if we just inviolate the process, it looks as if all of that has gone to waste.
Resources, power, place them side by side. Politicians will go for power and they will use whatever resources they have. It's in Nigeria. You see, when you consider Nigeria's situation, in which I was, in the course of my research for my PhD program in political science, I had to interview some foreign diplomats regarding my topic that time. And I recall one of the diplomats telling me, said, Tunji, there's crazy money flowing around in Nigeria. And you should know. You should know. Because they deal with the fact sheets regarding their own area of operation. These diplomats that I'm talking about. They know the kind of money. They know from intelligence where they are coming from, the kind of money that is floating among individuals, private individuals, those who are in government. Even if they spent 100 billion at that convention, it's nothing to politicians. Those who are in political office, for instance, how they, grab money here and there. When you carefully study how politicians move money around, when they're in power, just to get their political party to be in shape, to be able to contest adequately, you will be surprised. So much money is moving around. So when you are concerned about the resources expended in Ibadan, I wasn't even thinking along that line, because these people have many.
Even when they are no longer the ruling party.
Even if, yes, at the center, but at the state. Right. We hear stories. Somebody saying, so governor sponsored this, so governor sponsored this. One senator, current senator, was saying the other day that he sponsored PDP's convention, the starting point of PDP, way back 1999, even before he became governor. He was saying it. I have the video, that he sponsored way back 1999. So there are individuals who have this kind of money, and when you combine those individuals with, when you bring them together with those who are in political offices, and PDP has governors, even if it is one, he has access to state resources, and place that side by side with the fact that we are not holding public officers to account regarding how they expend resources. Then you understand why that kind of money expended at the PDP convention now invalidated the convention. The amount of money, resources expended in the Nigerian context is not even something that comes into my thinking, because the money is there for them to use.
Okay, so we know that the PDP office is still under lock and key by the Nigerian security forces because of what happened essentially the last time where Wike faction were there to take position of the office, the other faction was there. So to avert crisis and all of that, security stepped in and took control of that particular office. What does that signal to those who are looking at political parties from outside or from those who, what does it speak of our system?
It doesn't look good, Ubong. I have to admit that. It doesn't look good because, you see, the way politicians go about their business, you can extrapolate it to how they will run the country if they are there. You know, internal crisis leading to this kind of a situation. They can't even manage their own political whatever. How much more when parties get to power? How do they manage the community? And some of the stories you hear, you'll just be surprised that it's just a case of modeling through. You just model the entire system through. You know, no concrete agenda, no concrete focus of where we are heading. It's seen within the party system. How do they manage the system in such a way that your headquarters, it's not the first time, it won't be the first time anyway. There have been such situations in the past, you know. Even at state level, it occurs. Even at local government level, there was a case of, recent case of Rivers State, which is still ongoing anyway. At the time they were locking up local government, whatever. What is happening with politicians shouldn't stop public administration. And if they are doing this within the party system, I mean party structure, definitely it will percolate to public administration. And all Nigerians will feel the impact, negative impact at the end of the day. So it's not looking good because when outside coming, nations from outside assess us, international public institutions, you know, when they do their assessment, they look at all these things, you know, in terms of, and when they make their prediction concerning democracy, it is we Nigerians who try to defend and say, oh, it cannot happen. But they look at certain indices. And this is one of them. What you have just mentioned, locking party headquarters, there was crisis to the extent that they had to lock because the violence could erupt. Right. And if you are not very careful, it will spiral into so many other things. It's a good measure. When PDP gets its acts together, they can open their offices. But it doesn't make us look good that we are passing through 27 years of democracy.
Right, 26, getting to 27.
Getting to 27. And this is where we still are. You know, internal party crisis that should be discussed and so that it won't lead to a situation where we fear violence may break out. If we can still fear that violence may break out, it's not something that we should that is looking too good in terms of perception.
Some persons have said that the PDP weren't prepared from the beginning to be an opposition party that, you know, formed in 1998 and 1999, became ruling party, and were ruling party till 2015. And even at the time where they lost elections, some persons used to say, some like Asule Lamido that you mentioned, I said the PDP will rule Nigeria for 60 years, and people gave years as to, because they never thought anything can, you know, shift them from the saddle of leadership. But it arrived, and it arrived too. Does it have something to do with the consciousness that we weren't prepared to be an opposition party? And that, because some persons have even questioned the kind of opposition that the PDP have been able to provide for Nigeria vis-a-vis the kind of position that the APC provided for Nigeria.
The learning curve is still there, Ubong. Learning curve in terms of when you consider the trajectory of the political history of our nation, you want to give it to the political parties that they are still relatively trying to learn the ropes. You understand? I am one of the people in Nigeria that keep on saying that our democracy ought to have continued from the First Republic, as 1966, that it ought not to have been interrupted by the military. I was of that view. Democracy at that time, post-independence period, you know, just like 6 years. We were having crisis in the West and all of that. It was a learning process at that time. Ubong, let's try to imagine a situation in which that process was allowed to continue. Why did I say it should have been continued? The same negotiation that politicians could have engaged in at that time, and they would have been able to resolve and take Nigeria forward without war, was the same negotiation they ended up with doing in Aburi, Ghana, by the military, which ended up in war. I am of the opinion that if that process had continued, there might be external intervention in terms of, look, you guys come, let's talk. Maybe through some of the well-respected African leaders of other nations, from Kenya, from which other nation like that, they could intervene. You guys come and talk. This crisis, resolve it. I believe we might have gotten a better result that would not end up in war, which we had because the militaries were the ones in charge at that time. So I don't believe the military should have happened. Let's assume the military did not happen, and our democracy continued from 1960 till now. I want to believe that we won't be where we are in terms of, back to your question of PDP is not prepared to be in the opposition. They will have learned the ropes. Okay, we started 1999. And for the first time, the ruling party from 1999 to 2015 found itself in the role of playing opposition. I recall immediately PDP lost that election that time. Members were like, we've mismanaged the system, because they were shocked. Many of them still can't get over it because they were used to it.
They can't get over it after how many years? After, 10 years later.
So that angle of we were the ruling party, and then suddenly they were thrown out. It was a big one. So getting them to, and believe me, the thing will continue to rotate. It's PDP today. It will be another party tomorrow. But I would be careful. I would be very cautious in trying to say this democracy must not be truncated. It must continue. Why we struggle, just like a baby, like a toddler, like a 6-year-old trying to get it right, we have to get it right.
Right. So, I'm sorry, I'll just pause there because you mentioned something I'd like to ask. The PDP has been 27 years in creation. So, after 27 years, should we still be having teething problems, some very preliminary problems, and say we are growing? A child of 27 should be on his way to, he should have found out what he wants to do with his life, and should have, started the trajectory of his life.
Good question, Ubong. Accidents do happen along the way. And when they happen, how do you resolve them? Accidents along the way, they suddenly found themselves out of power. Interests of, party members clashing, and then the ruling party not doing them any favors. The ruling party wanted to continue to be in power in 2022-2023, and they found a way to break through their ranks and pull some of them to their side. Interest within the party, interest from outside the party. All those things will continue. They will have to happen. If you do, as a party, if you don't handle them well, we have the situation in which we for instance, Ubong, can we go back and ask ourselves, if PDP got it right in terms of saying, okay, the mentality, the sensibility is that presidency should come to the South, and everybody agreed.
Yeah, in 2019.
Not in 2019, 2022.
Okay, 2023.
Election.
Yeah. But
the primaries took place in 2022.
Yeah.
Let's assume we had a situation in which everybody agreed, and they said, okay, let it go to the South.
But they had the agreement. Remember that meeting that was held in Delta State? Ifeanyi Okowa was governor, and they came out with a position.
Right. They came up with the position, but what eventually transpired? We saw a primaries where somebody from the North eventually won.
Like Atiku Abubakar.
And that set the trajectory all the way down to where we are. So that was an accident for me. That was interest clashing. Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, the former vice president, wanted to contest. And he had the resources to get the delegates behind him. That accident,
they used resources to get delegates. I think the delegates voted him out of him being the best.
You know, that's a view. Okay. That's a view. But what the reality, what has dawned upon us was that while the PDP could have provided a very solid opposition in that election by being united, particularly if they had produced somebody from the south as their candidate, they didn't do that. That was an accident. That was interest playing. That was a situation that happened to them.
Right.
Just like people normally say playfully, Nigeria happened to me. Those situations happen to PDP, and they are yet to recover. So when you are asking the question, they are not a child of a man of 26 years, 27 years should get it right. Things do happen in the course of the journey. The things that have happened to PDP,
are expelled from school,
you know, and then you get yourself back, or you fail an exam, and you come back and get take the exam. You tell yourself, I have to get this done. So we can't just say they've been 26 and then leave it at that. What has happened to them? Interest within the party has happened to them. Clashes of interest. Somebody not wanting to give up. He wants the ticket, and he got the ticket, and then everybody went like, we are not going to accept this. It's time for the South. Let's assume that did not happen, Ubong. Where would PDP be today? They would have given the ruling party a run for their money during that election. Even if the APC won, the ruling party won at that stage, it wouldn't have been like, they would know they would have sweated more than they did. I just imagine in a situation in which 5 major governors, state governors at that time, decided to work for the ruling party that eventually won the presidential election. Those intrigues, those shenanigans, they do happen. And if they happen, the party falls, it gets up, it continues. But they must continue, Ubonk. Nobody will tell me that somebody who is wearing khaki uniform is more patriotic than me, or is more patriotic than the politician out there, so he wants to pick gun and do anything. Leave these political parties alone. Let them get it wrong, and they will get it right.
Right.
It's part of politics. It's part of the reason some of us are political scientists, to study all those intrigues. It's what makes politics politics.
Right. So,
and I don't panic at any time.
So you are saying that the PDP will rise. What are you seeing? Are you seeing a political solution? Because we've also had that talks of a political solution where maybe the Abdurrahman faction will eventually have a meeting with the Etani Motoraki-led faction of the party, and they're able to resolve their differences, talk over their differences, and come to a conclusion. Like, let's work together. Are you seeing that?
That's what it should be. And I want to express the optimism that at one stage or the other, they will get there. The unfortunate thing is how fast will that be, and how will it affect their chances in the next election? From my own standpoint, PDP is not in a position to even be a strong contender.
For 2027?
2027.
They should just stop. They shouldn't present a candidate.
Even if they present a presidential candidate, maybe things could still happen.
Who are the president? Because the major people that always wanted to be presidential candidates on the platform of the PDP, they moved.
They moved out.
Peter Obi moved.
Apart from that,
Atiku Abubakar has moved.
Right. Apart from those figures you've just, eminent figures that you have just mentioned, I think what could play out for PDP in the next election will revolve around what happens in some of these other parties. What is many are moving to the ruling party APC. Others are moving to ADC, newly energized. It's been there. ADC has been there. Now, what happens when all of them who are seeking for political tickets, what happens if there is chaos, if they don't get it? Some may still move back. If they are popular with their people at the grassroots, local government chairman, state governor, senator, House of Rep, state, some of them could find their way back to PDP. And if they are popular in their own local environment, But as for the presidency, I'm not too sure PDP is standing very strong to be a good contestant in next year.
I'm not. I don't know. You are the political scientist. Are you seeing any candidates that looks promising for can at least in the ADC? Yes, presidential election. In the ADC, we can point to Peter Obi and Atiku Abubakar, and even Rotimi Amechi and Nasir El-Rufai. But in the PDP, is there anybody you can point to as that could give the APC a run for their money?
The mood of the nation will have to determine. You see, when you mention all those figures, you mention the figures we already know,
Right.
and their names ring as it should do. But it's not in every situation that the names that ring bells do win election or the presidency. It's not in audit. Okay, for instance, let me take us back to 1979. At the convention, MPN convention, we knew, somebody like me who read government and all of that, secondary school, political science and whatever, I had studied First Republic. In fact, from 1950s into 1960s, these were things we studied. And I happen to know that Alhaji Shehu Shagari was an aide, parliamentary aide to the prime minister at that time. So he was already within the system. And then he became a federal minister, I think, at one point. 1966 ended. But by 1979, you won't give somebody like Alhaji Shagari the same prominence as you give somebody like Baba Awolowo, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, who was the premier of Western region. Right. And somebody like Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, who was the first ceremonial president of Nigeria, who were well known at that time. You know, at the convention, people like somebody like Chief MKO Abiola was one of the leading aspirants, only to be told that, look, this is not about money. We hear the story. And then it was decided, somebody like Maitama Sule, who was also a parliamentary person in the First Republic for the former Prime Minister Tafawa Balewa, and who was like a contemporary and co-equal with Shagari. He was at the forefront. I learned that Shagari was, and some people came together and said, okay, we will support Shagari. Meanwhile, there were other individuals, MKO, you know, all of them were there, but they decided to hand it over to...
But from 1999, I just had that, I was just telling my colleague that from 1999, we've not seen any presidents that emerges in Nigeria without having been in the public face for, let's say, upward of 30 years.
Yes, but I was just... That is true, but I was just using the illustration of Alhaji Shehu Shagari, that within the MPN that time, there were people who were more prominent than him, but it was given to him. Now, I want to bring that to the present situation. Who tells us that somebody like Governor Seyi Makinde could be the candidate of the APC?
Of the PDP?
PDP. And when all the intrigues are well done and dusted in the other parties, you see a drove of people moving back, and then in their localities they are able to persuade their people, and look, PDP is still on ground here. And then somebody like Makinde is making impact. So
if it's a Makinde and Tinubu, Bola Ahmed Tinubu on the ballots, is there even a chance?
Well, it's all about party structure, and the party structure is stronger now.
We have the structure now.
Not as strong as APC. Let's be realistic about that too, Bonk.
Do they even have at all? Is there a structure in the PDP at all?
Well, there's a structure, but the structure is kind of divided. It's a divided house at the moment.
Right, thank you.
And that divided house is a big problem when you are now placing them side by side with the ruling party. Right. The ruling party is standing strong. But I am not particularly the kind of person who rule out any candidate just because they are not as popular as the candidate of the APC or the EDC.
Thank you so much. We have to end the program now. Thank you, everybody, for being part of the program. We talked about the courts today, who High Court in Ibadan has actually nullified the PDP National Convention that was held on the 15th and 16th of November 2025 in Ibadan. We have Dr. Tunji, who joined us tonight on the program. Thank you so much, Doctor.
You're welcome, Nubong.
All right, and that's where we end the program for tonight. Remember to always love Nigeria and do your best for this country. My name is Ubong Usora in Abuja. I'm saying bye for now.